There has been no official response from the Chinese government on the Wikileaks release of hundreds of thousands of sensitive U.S. diplomatic cables. However, the Chinese propaganda department has ordered all state media to refrain from reporting on any documents that pertain to China. The U.S. cables suggest that American diplomats have expressed concern that China has been on an international computer hacking campaign targeting American businesses such as Google, Western governments, and the Tibetan spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama.
I'm Stan Grant in Seoul. With North and South Korea currently mired in crisis, the WikiLeaks documents throw light on discussions between Seoul and Washington about a possible implosion of the North. It says that South Korea says that China's concerns about a unified Korea may be eased by potential business deals. And another cable providing this description of Kim Jong-il, a flabby old chap suffering physical and psychological trauma from a stroke.
I'm Diana Magnay in Berlin. Now, the WikiLeaks revelations do not make for very savoury reading for Germany's politicians. The German Chancellor, described by the US ambassador to Berlin as Angela Teflon Merkel, and called not particularly creative and risk-averse. But that's nothing to the language used to describe her foreign minister, Guido Westerwelle, who's fairly described as incompetent, aggressive and not even respected by the foreign policy elite in this country. Now, the German government has made it quite clear that it does not believe that German-American relations will be compromised by these documents. It is far more concerned with assessing the documents right now for any impact they might have on broader foreign policy issues.
I'm Mohammed Jamjoom. While Yemeni officials have consistently downplayed the role of the U.S. in airstrikes against al-Qaeda in Yemen, one diplomatic cable released by WikiLeaks paints quite a different picture. Now, the cable in question cites a meeting that took place in January of this year between U.S. General David Petraeus and Yemeni President Ali Abdullah Saleh, in which President Saleh agreed to continue to cover up the plans to use U.S. fixed-wing bombers in order to target al-Qaeda in Yemen. According to the cable, President Saleh said, "We'll continue saying that we're using our bombs, not yours." Now, while the Yemeni government has not yet commented on this development, clearly nobody in Sana'a will be happy about the revelation. It's a very sensitive topic how much the U.S. is involved in airstrikes in Yemen. And while Yemen's government has begun to acknowledge in the past few months that the U.S. has been involved in airstrikes, both the U.S. and the Yemeni governments have not wanted to acknowledge that much publicly how much the involvement is, fearing a backlash in Yemen.
I'm Ben Wiedemann in Cairo. The picture that emerges from the WikiLeaks cables on Egypt is of an old American ally that oftentimes feels unappreciated, of an Egyptian president, Hosni Mubarak, who's personally offended by occasional U.S. criticism of his authoritarian rule. The U.S. ambassador to Cairo describes how Mubarak has a visceral hatred for Iran, whose leaders he considers to be liars. But none of this is really news. What's most interesting is the little peeks behind the official facade. The cables say that Mubarak likes to recount to visiting American officials how he warned George W. Bush against invading Iraq, ending with, "I told you so," and a wag of his finger.
I'm Matthew Chance in a freezing Moscow, where there's been a decidedly cool reaction to WikiLeaks' release of US diplomatic cables about Russia. They're reported to contain unflattering descriptions of the Russian Prime Minister, Vladimir Putin, as an alpha dog, and as of a pale and hesitant President Medvedev playing the Robin to Mr. Putin's Batman. So far, though, the contents of the cables that have been made public have offered only glimpses of sensitive negotiations between Russia and the United States about missile defences and tougher sanctions on Iran over its nuclear program. US diplomats tell CNN they do not believe there's anything in the disclosures yet that are likely to cause lasting damage to US-Russian relations.